in that defense as well, the ball was met with a big thud of the bat. All the youngsters watching out there, good lesson to learn.
Tim's hit that straight to mid-off with a quick no. Looking really good. 3 balls in. He already is looking to stamp his authority in the game.
Yes, I mean, if you want to win the game, you will need at least one player to bat through. And both of these guys are quite capable of doing that for Singapore, with plenty more to come.
Absolutely. Looking at Tim Davids at the crease reminds me of a lot of the teams around the world that's very open to inviting players who can represent their nation, and this is even going to the likes of Owen Morgan captaining England. You've had Geraint Jones representing PNG. You've had Ryan Campbell playing for Hong Kong, again being Australian and being English. You've had the like of John Davidson represent Canada, being Australian origin.
Who was the Australian origin player who played for the West Indies, or who also had
Brendan Nash?
Brendan Nash, that's right.
Who had represented Queensland in state cricket and got the opportunity to represent West Indies. It's just fascinating. And even the likes of Usman Khawaja, Fawad Ahmed representing Australia.
Yeah, although Usman Khawaja was 3 when he moved to Australia. Yes, he was born in Pakistan.
That's got the edge, but straight through to short third man. Bowler really lucky to get away with that.
Yes, indeed. But chasing 93, yes, you want to get the run rate as high as you can if it comes down to that on the points table. But you do have a luxury, or you do have the luxury of a bit of time to still be able to do that, rather than trying to play any risky or dangerous shots. Not that I was referring to the shot per se earlier.
Yes and no, Cash, because these totals are the tricky sort of totals where if you go out with that messaging in your mind, there is the tendency for players sometimes to get a bit complacent. So the likes of Tim Davids coming in and hitting the first ball for 4, if it's in his zone, he's just still being aggressive. And in my view, it's important for batsmen to show that intent and to play it like they're batting in the first innings of a game, just play with that intent so that they can finish off the game without being too complacent and thinking of the smaller total.
Okay, still get a single from that one. He wouldn't complain about that, folks. All these knowledgeable pearls of wisdom that we continue to get from my fellow commentator Sharon is due to the fact that he is himself a cricketer who went through the junior ranks in the UAE, played for UAE under 15s, under 17s and under 19s too. Is that correct, Sharon?
Yeah, Cash, you were good bowling by Aziz. You were not supposed to bring that up.
No, I wanted to highlight that because you, like these cricketers out there, especially having played in an associate cricket nation, would know the effort involved, and specifically, it all comes down to that passion side of it. So I would love to hear your story so that our viewers can also, especially the young kids out there, can learn from it.
Well, Cash, you've put me on the spot here, so look, it's really important when you love the game so much. You spend a lot of time. You need to obviously enjoy the sport. So maybe we'll just let this ball go through first. What a shot by Tim. He's absolutely creamed that.
Went like a whistle.
That was a brilliant shot by Tim. Gave himself a bit of room and absolutely creamed that through mid-off and covers.
Or as Ravi Shastri would say, I was hit like a trace bullet.
Yeah, it's good to see him batting with that intent and batting with that confidence, just coming in and not letting the bowlers dictate terms. And that's a close call by the bowler. Probably got a little bit of bat onto that.
As well as he was coming quite far forward into that shot, that probably also helped his cause for that particular ball.
Yeah.
But yes, please keep sharing your journey, your experiences as we go through this innings. Definitely a lot to learn for young kids from it.
Oh, that was an absolute freebie to Tim. He's absolutely crashed that through mid-wicket.
And it's a no ball as well.
No ball, which means it's a free hit next ball. So this is going to be very interesting. Neville, who had a lot of control during his first over, as soon as he's seen someone dictate terms, he's lost the plot just a little bit. Yeah, this next ball is going to be very interesting. And you can't change the field as well, considering it's the same batsman. So he's probably going to look to go straight.
Whoa! That almost took out Surender's head on the way to long off.
Yeah, lucky that there was a fielder at long off. Just the one run, not too much damage caused off the no ball. Yeah, Cash, just coming back to, the youngsters, when they love the sport that much, it's a great opportunity to represent any nation. And a lot of time has been spent as well. But what is really important is to get the basics right. When it comes to batting, when it comes to bowling, it's really important for them to know the kind of player they are and use that to their advantage, and not to try something that's not something that's within their skill set. And it's really important for them to be really disciplined as well. And what I mean, well played by Surender. Probably will come back for two.
It was very nicely placed. He knew exactly where those fielders were.
Yeah, so just coming back, it's really important for a youngster to be extremely disciplined with their cricket. I see a lot of youngsters here in Singapore sometimes rock up to games with their kit bag not even opened up from the previous game, or just sometimes they come to games and the wrong T-shirt's been bought. So it's really important for them to have a lot of discipline, and that shows that they appreciate the game. Oh, that could be a run out, and it's very close, and he's gone.
Direct hit from
point. Bit of miscommunication from the batsman, and Tim Davids has run out. That's a massive setback for Singapore. He was a long way.
Definitely a big bit of miscommunication, because Surinder was not interested in that run from the word go. Maybe that initial first small step to look for that run, but as the ball had gone straight to the fielder, he hadn't moved.
One thing that I picked out when Tim Davids came, as soon as he faced the first ball, he was communicating to his partner. This is what the ball did: it's come in or it's moved out, and that communication looks like it was something that Tim Davids relishes. But when you see probably the other batsman batting, and we can even use the next ball as an example, as soon as Surender faces it, it's important for a batsman to tell to their partner, this is what the ball's doing, this is how it's behaving, this is how the wicket's behaving. And that's where there's a bit of a miscommunication because of the expectations of each player at the crease.
Yes, and then it comes back down to the hours you put in practice as well. And if you look at it overall, with Tim just coming into the setup, from that running between the wickets point of view, most of the other batters in Singapore are quite used to each other's running styles.
that's the exact same shot, the exact same fielder, and you could see that Manpreet basically knows Surendra would not go for that run and did not take that start. But yeah, coming back, so I represented the UA under 15 for the first part of when I started playing cricket, and that was under the guidance of Saeed Abid Ali, the ex-Indian cricketer. And moving on from there, went on to captain the under 17 for the UAE. And at that point, we had Roger Binney as part of our coaching setup, which was playing the usual Asia Cup qualifiers, the World Cup qualifiers, and so yeah, it was a fantastic experience because the likes of Angelo Matthews was captaining Singapore, Sri Lanka. You had Mushfiqur Rahim representing Bangladesh, and Mohammad Nabi, the captain for Afghanistan. So it was fascinating. So now to see them obviously do really well in their careers for their respective nations is just fantastic to see.
Oh, that's amazing. That's there's definitely at least half a dozen stories there that I can expect from you from all the names that you mentioned that you played against. So please keep them coming.
Oh, let's focus on the game, Kashan. No, I would just say that certainly that sort of upbringing sort of helped me get that guidance. And here and coming back to the setup here in Singapore, and all the other nations. All the other nations, I'm sure their coaching panels got very capable people, and it's important for them to guide youngsters in the right way. So here you've got Bilal, you've got Arjun Menon, and you've got Chamal, all of them from a coaching standpoint really making a huge difference.
There you go. That was
great shot by Surendra.
Inside out over point. It was almost made it look like Dhoni's helicopter there as he finished that swing.
The only difference is the ball went on the other direction.
Oh, runs are runs. It's interesting though when you talk about the youngsters bit and having that right attitude, and down the ground for a single. I have had these discussions on several occasions with a lot of my mates here in Singapore, and one of the things peculiar about Singapore is just the lifestyle. It makes people comfortable, including the kids. You don't have that real struggle, say somewhere like a Bombay, where you have to travel by the train for 2 hours just to get training, or if you're in a place like Sydney or Perth. Single behind square moves the score to 24 for 2. Decent start. Of course, they would have not wanted to lose those 2 wickets, but that's part of the game. So bringing it back into it, places like Perth or Sydney, you would still be driving. I mean, you may not take public transport, but you drive like half an hour, 40 minutes to training. Another single.
Really good batting by Surendran and Manpreet, the new batsman at the crease. Both of them nudging the ball, grabbing the singles, just knowing that the big shot's not required, and paying respect to the bowler where it's due. So good, intelligent batting. And taking advantage of the bad ones. That's exactly the basics you want to stick to, right? If you look at it, like for like, at this stage, Singapore has definitely, rotated the strike a lot better, which is, in the end, going to be to their benefit. But yeah, so then again, talking about that bit here, I mean, it's so easy to get around. It's so easy to hop into that Uber 10-minute ride. Everything's done at home with all the helpers in most of the cases. It's a wide down leg side. They go for the single, and they managed to sneak in a run as well. So that's 2 runs without a ball being bowled this over. Look, Cash, yeah, there is that convenience factor here, but that should not come in when it comes to sporting. When it comes to sporting, everyone for various sports, not just cricket, should go through that rigor, and it's really important because that sets the foundation for a good sporting career. And that is something that all kids watching should make sure that they push themselves and they go at 100% every time they're at training, and they also know when to execute their skills and when they need to sort of be a little bit conservative as well. So it's really important for kids to understand that, and that only comes through guidance. And it's really important for coaches and assistant coaches to play that sort of role. But what kids can do is to bring the right attitude, and that attitude is what will take them to the next level.
You read my mind on that one as I was about to state exactly that. Driven hard down the ground by Surinder for a dot ball there, 29 for 2, Singapore of 4.2.
Yeah, good shot from Surinder for no run. He's someone who does not probably have the best technique, but he's an extremely effective batsman and can hit the ball a long way. He was the top run scorer for Singapore in the T20 qualifiers going down leg. He was the top run scorer in the T20 qualifiers just before this tournament for Singapore, and hence would be also entering this tournament with a lot of confidence.
And he knows the pitch like the back of his hand. It's something that actually he keeps in his back pocket. If you ask me, I've seen him score a number of centuries on this ground at will. There was one that I remember distinctively where he scored 100 dot ball there out to point or more backward point, where it was a reduced T20 to 12 overs because of rain, and he scored a century in the 9th or the 10th over when he had opened the innings. So he knows this pitch really well.
As Neville Christie comes into bowl, Manpreet's gone for a drive on the offside for no run. I really like this bowler's action. He has a really good rhythm to his bowling, comes in and dusts the ball back into the right-hander. The moment you see someone who's starting to dictate terms or to get on top of him, he sort of loses his direction a little bit, but here the batsman's playing him a little bit more conservatively, and he's come back on track to do what he does best, which is pitching the ball right up and swinging it in.
Yes, it could just it's straight back to the bowler, just help him to try and avoid those wides. Never helps a bowler's cause. 5 overs gone, 30 for 2, folks, as Surinder takes a quick sip of water in this heat.
This heat is quite sapping, Cash.
Yes, the humidity. When I first moved here, I always tell people this story. I used to get really annoyed when I was out walking on the streets because I just thought people walk so slowly in this place. But then 5 minutes later, I would be all sweaty. It's like I had to go home to have a shower and change my shirt. That's when I figured out this is why they walk so slowly, and I started doing that. So yes, it is the heat can be sapping. You can see Chetan Suryawanshi's dad there in the white shirt. Single stolen to mid-wicket.
Syed Aziz coming in for his second over, had a decent first over just for 3 runs. He's become a well-known figure here in Singapore, Cash. He's, as I mentioned before, in a Premier Division game against CSC, he scored a 200, which is not very common these days. Had an absolute ball on the field, and nice contributing from Malaysia with the ball.
Yeah, it was again another one of those almost like a slower. You slowed down the pace on that ball. Singapore going along nicely so far. Driven out to mid-on for another single. Keeps us, or brings us back to that bit about the importance of rotating strike. Another thing all the youngsters out there should be looking at this Singapore approach to try to inculcate that in their games.
What Surendra just did over there was something very typical to him. He tends to gain some momentum by lifting his front leg. Not a proven technique for batsmen around the world, but does him well.
That's what and absolutely marooned that one. And that's a 6. Bang. Almost ended up as a flat 6.
It's just funny that after lifting his leg, he ends up in the same position before lifting his leg. But it's just that it gives him some momentum.
Oh, yes. But see, that's the thing that they say, right? You talk about bowlers and you think of Jasprit Bumrah. When certain things work for certain batsmen, just don't tinker with it.
What you just said, Cash, reminds me of George Bailey stance against...
Oh, yeah. He just kept getting stranger and stranger with that with that stance, didn't he?
Yeah, the one where he was where his bottom was facing the bowler.
That's right. But he did manage some runs too, so that was the other interesting part.
It'd be interesting to show the public what we're talking about. Not sure if that's possible.
We will find out. Okay, 6 overs gone, 38 for 2 folks. You know, when you were talking earlier about attitude and having that right attitude, Sharon, I was reading this article about a young lady who is a world champion in fencing for Singapore. In the junior ranks. Nicely bowled by Anwar for a dot. Folks, Sharon has just stepped away from the mic. He is trying to get us that image on the live feed of George Bailey's stance that we were discussing earlier. But talking about that attitude bit about bringing that 100% to the field every single time. Dot ball again. Not every day is the same, of course. And there will be days when you may not feel 100%. However, to the onside for a single. That's the first run in this over on the 4th ball. That's probably one of the slowest starts to an over so far for Singapore. Dot ball to short cover. So yeah, on those days, this young lady was talking about those days when she wouldn't feel at her best, where she wouldn't feel like she wanted to be there because of whatever reason, but at the same time she would bring it back for herself by reminding her or herself that regardless, I am here, so I should be giving that 100%. And that's what always kept her going, and that's the attitude bit which is required if you want to succeed.
It's all about controlling the controllables, Cash. So if that's something within your control, you give it 100%. Things that are not in your control, you leave it out.
Spot on, Sharon.
And so I have been successful in sourcing the images, and we were talking about how certain people have certain habits, and if it works for them, they tend to stick with it. So not sure if the viewers have had experience or have watched the likes of George Bailey of Shivnarine Chandapal batting, but we've been lucky enough to find those images, and we'll put that up shortly, and we can just talk through that a bit, Cash.
That sounds good. Always good to get different perspectives, and definitely when it comes to that George Bailey stance, though, I wouldn't recommend to any youngster out there to attempt it personally.
Suraj Ramon pulls that ball to deep square leg, very close to rolling onto his own wickets at that ball. 1 run scored. Siadat is a new bowler coming from Malaysia, bowls offies.
So what is your area of specialty on the cricket field, Sharon?
Absolutely nothing, Cash. Just
turned
stand
up and captained UAE under 17s.
There's
the stands.
There's the stands, folks. So in 2017, George Bailey's stance was the one extreme left. We'll come back to that in a second. Short ball, and they've managed to scamper through for a run as well. Like by. So yeah, that's the stance, folks. So 2017, George Bailey said, this is how I'm going to stand, because it just prevents him from opening up. And the following year, he turned even more to show the bowler his backside, which is what really worked for him. And great shot by Manpreet. 1 run scored. The following year, he turned his body a bit further and started scoring even more runs. And there was a running joke with the Australian team that at one point he'd be facing square leg.
Driven straight to the bowler by Surendran. That was a dot ball to complete the over. 8 gone, 44 for no loss. Singapore cruising along nicely over here in this match.
The other image that was thrown up was Shivnarine Chandapal's stance, and that's a stance that he's been batting with for a very long. In fact, he still plays first-class cricket and he bats that way.
Oh yes, I think he's batted like that his whole career.
Absolutely.
But then he has that. He moves across as the bowler is just about to bowl. So
that's it, up in the air, falls safe, and they go through for 2 runs after a misfield at long off.
Nice looking shot there by Manpreet.
So we were talking about this. There's a lot of technically sound batsmen like your Kellis of the world, your Kohlis of the world. They have a trigger movement. So that's just the trigger movement for them before they can come back into that natural batting position.
That's exactly the word I was trying to look for. Getting old here, folks.
That's why we're commentating with each other, Cash, to help each other out.
I'm definitely glad you're here, Sharon.
Manpreet hit that ball to long on. He's certainly one of the better players of spin going around in the Singapore side.
Oh yes, and a hard-working cricketer too. Again, if you bring it back into youngsters, especially the youngsters here in Singapore. I'm always watching Manpreet Singh. He's also part of the Singapore coaching setup for the youngsters. Very sincere, honest cricketer and coach for the youngsters.
Well fielded, great fielding and mid-wicket by Fitri.
He didn't quite connect it though. I thought that shot.
Nah, went through a bit early with the shot. Lucky to keep it onto the ground, but no damage caused. I really like the looks of Anwar. Really good action. Nice and energetic.
Nice and energetic and easy. 9 overs gone. 48 for 2, folks. Malaysian fans, bring on the cheer for your team online. Ask all your friends. Share the feed. Ask them to come and support. Send that energy through the internet to your cricket team to come out there and pull up something from their reserves to make this game more interesting. At this stage, it's looking a one-way street.
Malaysia, a country with some decent, in fact world-class facilities in the form of the Kinrara Oval, the Biomass Oval, and the turf pitch at the university.
Oh yeah, as well as the Royal Selangor Cricket Club ground as well. Beautiful grounds over in Malaysia. They look after them well as well. And having said that, I must say, with the amount of cricket that the IA ground gets in Singapore, constantly you have to doff your hat to the ground staff here at IA, especially Aparna and Yusuf.
Absolutely.
They work hard day in, day out to get contests happening here. And this is something that goes unrecognized.
Yeah.
Generally, we take our ground.
We take it for granted.
Yes, we do, as they steal another single. So yes, thank you to both our groundsmen and all other ground staff here at IA for keeping the ground in such good condition, especially out at night here, folks. It is a beautiful sight, this ground under lights.
Savir and Deep Singh come into the attack. Bowls his left arm spin, more of a arm bowler rather than a big turner of the ball. Has a bit of a sidearm action rather than your traditional over-the-top bowling of your peak.
Yeah, it just seems like he just sort of pushes the ball through.
Yeah, similar to Vinod in terms of just trying to target the batsman's pads. It's a great sweep shot by Manpreet. He should get 4 for that. Oh, that's really well fielded.
Brilliant fielding out at cow corner.
Great fielding to keep the batsman to 2. Yeah, he targets your pads, but he's not a big turner of the ball, whereas Vinod, for that matter, considering he's more the up and over right from the very top, he targets the pads but gets the ball to turn away as well. So different bowlers, but sort of hitting the same length.
And played inside.
Beautiful
out.
shot by Manpreet. That's his go-to shot. He's a class act when he's actually playing over the infield through the offside.
I tell you what, though, I wasn't aware of the field. I'm certainly glad he was when he played that shot. I almost had my heart in my mouth going, okay, where is the fielder?
Yeah, he's a great player through the offside. In fact, he is him and Anish are probably your 360 player in the Singapore squad, and they play all shots effortlessly.
Oh yes.
Singapore certainly benefited with a lot of the expats coming into Singapore and to form part of their cricketing setup. You've got your homegrown talent in the form of Janak and Rohan.
Janak, Rohan, Anish, even Reza.
Yep.
So they definitely complement each other well.
But you've certainly got the likes of Surendra Chandramohan, Manpreet. Played by Surendra Mohan. Great shot for 4 runs through covers, making batting look really easy. The way the Singaporean batsmen have approached the innings, very different to the Malaysian batsmen, but at the same time it looks like they're batting on a very different surface. Probably a bit more brave than the Malaysian batsmen, you would say?
Oh yes, I mean, isn't that why they say fortune favours the brave? If you look at that intent side of it, intent with both taking the singles and intent with wanting to put that right ball away, which is there to be put away. Sticking to the basics.
Absolutely, and shot selection has been a massive part of this innings so far.
And as I was highlighting to you earlier, for those who've just recently joined in, this is Surendran's home ground. He carries this pitch in his back pocket. Just knows the two-paced nature of this pitch. Dot ball. Good comeback by Shahadat. Singapore now only needs 32 runs. Ho ho ho! Surendran! He's certainly woken the crowd up. The ball has landed in the ground next door, out it. Deep square, or sort of behind square. That's Surendran for you folks. When he gets going, there is no stopping him. In the first game as well, he scored, I believe, about 47 or 48. So he's been in good nick. Certainly positions Singapore well for the last match that they're playing against Nepal. Nepal is, of course, the highest ranked team in this tournament, in this ICC World T20 qualifiers Asia Finals. Only the top team will go through to the next round, which will then decide the winners who will go and play the T20 World Cup in Australia next year. So a lot at stake here for all the teams, and none of the teams can afford to lose any of their matches. So Singapore will be happy if they can now go on to win this match comfortably, which will also help with their run rate. Malaysian fans, don't give up though, as we have seen over many cricket games. A quick couple of wickets and things can change very quickly.
It's going to be tough, Cash. A couple of more wickets I don't think should really make the difference as well, because of Singapore's really strong batting lineup. Like I said, it's really important when playing against Singapore that teams try and take advantage of Singapore's bowling, but batting is something where I'm pretty sure Singapore can compete with some of the top associate teams because of the depth.
Oh yes, look, I would have to agree with you completely on that one, as that one's played out for a single by Surendran. But cricket's a funny game. I remember watching a game, IA versus CSC, I think it was Division 2 or Division 3, and CSC needed 7 runs, 4 wickets in hand, and they lost the game by 1 run.
Wow.
On this very ground. And the funniest thing was, I was watching with my son, and there was a couple of his friends there too, if I recall correctly, and I said, and they were like, okay, this game's done. I said, well, you know what, you never know till the last run is scored. And literally a couple of wickets fell straight after, and bang, the game just completely turned on its head.
Yes, absolutely. Cash, it's 4:24 p.m. here in Singapore. A lot of the public will be signing off from Friday and finishing up work. We'll be tuning in just to see what's happened with the games. As Surendra Chandramohan
gets another boundary.
Onto the leg side.
That was a gift, really.
Absolutely.
That ball. And Surendran makes the most of it.
So I thought it would be a good opportunity just to go through the proceedings that has happened through the first innings. So Malaysia batting first, scored 92 runs. Virendip Singh scoring 17, Mohammad Ziyadat scoring 22, and Shafiq Sharif scoring 12, and Aminuddin Ramli getting 12 as well. The rest in single digits. From the bowling front, Amjad Mahmood and Ananta Krishna picking up 3 wickets each, and Salador bowling a miserly spell of 4 overs, 2 for 11. Janak and Vinod Bhaskaran picking up 1 wicket each. With Singapore, we've lost the 2 wickets, and Rohan Rangarajan getting bowled in the first over of the Singapore innings.
Very unusual for him.
And Timothy David getting run out, which could have caused a bit of a hiccup, but now these 2 batsmen have done really well. They steadied the innings, and they're looking to cruise to a convincing victory here for Singapore.
Indeed. They're going to put us out of our job a lot earlier today, Sharon.
I'm not going to complain.
You've obviously got as beautiful drive straight down the ground, straight past the bowler, motored along for a 4 by Surendran. They're in a hurry now. And Surendran, the way he plays, would also be looking to go for that 50. He always likes to convert his starts. 78 for 2.
Why do I think he's going to go for another big one here, Cash?
And there you go. Well, didn't quite connect it in the end. I thought he would have launched that ball out onto the other side of the ground, but anyway.
The snake field.
But anyway, I don't think he will complain. He's retained strike. Bringing in their fast bowler, Fitri Muhammad Sham. No, my apologies. Was that the...
Yeah, it's Muniandi. Let's come into the bowling attack.
I'm sure Surendran's going to try to knock the ball out of the park. Down the leg side. Again, that little dance from Surendran. Perhaps he wants to tell the bowler that he's here to party on the crease. Make most of every ball by whacking them all around the park.
He has absolutely
smoked it.
That's gone on to the roads at Balestier for sure.
Yes, I'm sure we're going to see the umpire or the third umpire running to the field with the box of cricket balls happening right as we speak.
Hey Cash, would you have a count of the number of balls that's been lost in the tournament so far?
I've only just come in, but today, because I was actually overseas and traveling, so I haven't seen much of the games either, so that's why I'm also happy that you're here today. Well, today's game we've lost 2. It's not surprising, though, as we were talking earlier, not a big ground. And some of these guys are big hitters.
Nicely played down to long off. In one of the practice games where Singapore were playing the PK Gladiators, in just one of those T20 games, they had lost 9 balls.
Wow. Would that be some kind of a record, one would think?
I would like to think so. And that was just one game. And the PK Gladiators were here for a month. So they played 5 50-over games and 5 T20s as well. So I'm sure there was a lot of balls floating around.
I reckon they should actually approach the Guinness Book of World Records to see if there is such a record. And if it isn't, then they should look to register it.
Considering this is an international game as well, of course, for sure.
Yeah.
You might want to take that up with Saad Cash.
Yes. There you go again, that little dance of the front leg. Look at that, they just keep rotating strike, keep bringing in the big ones, and now only 4 runs needed. Manpreet on strike. Is he going to try and finish it off this ball?
I don't think so. Surendran's batting on 49. Might want to give him the chance to get his 50. It's always prestigious to be getting a 50, especially when you're playing an international T20.
Oh, yes. Look, I would have to agree, and also agree with you that yes, I am sure Manpreet will allow his senior partner to get that 50. They're going to take at least 2 there. Yep, Surendran retains strike with 2 needed. I'd love to see him finish it off in style at this start of the next over. Folks, as this game is drawing to a close, there are 2 more games tomorrow, and as I was mentioning earlier, all important games. I'm just about to bring up the schedule for you so I can tomorrow it's going to be 9:30 a.m. Singapore time, Kuwait versus Nepal, and 2 p.m. is Malaysia versus Qatar. With this loss, I think Malaysia would be pretty much out of this tournament because they've lost another game as well, if I recall correctly. However, important enough games for both Qatar and Kuwait and Nepal tomorrow.
And that's the 50 for Surendran. 50 of 42 balls, massive effort from him.
He will be happy with that one. After the first match, I had seen a post from him about having scored 47, missing out on the 50, but very happy that the team had won. This was on Facebook. So I'm sure he's happy going 1 up today. Well played, Surendran.
This would be the first 50 for a Singaporean international T20.
There you go, and Manpreet Singh in style. Brilliantly played by Singapore, won by 8 wickets. Surendran not out on 50. Manpreet Singh 26 of 28. He will be happy with that time in the middle too, with that important game coming up against Nepal.
That'll be a cracker of a game on Sunday.
Oh yes, indeed. And depending on Nepal's results tomorrow, it will if Nepal win tomorrow, it will essentially end up being a virtual final on Sunday between Singapore and Nepal. They've kept the best game to the last, and there's the excited crowd also in the pavilion balcony there. All of them happy faces with this performance from Singapore today.
Yeah, Singapore will be extremely happy with the way they've gone in the tournament so far. It's been 3 out of 3 for them.
Thank you for tuning in. The man of the match will be coming up shortly. Who would be your man of the match, Sharon, as you see the players shaking hands?
I would certainly say the bowler set it up for Singapore, and in my view, it could potentially be Amjad Mahboob or Salador Vijay Kumar. Now Salador obviously bowled in the power play, bowled 4 overs, picked up 2 wickets for 11 runs. But at the same time, Amjad Mahboob came in towards the end and restricted the scoring and picking up 3. So, but if I had to pick between the two, I would go for a bowler and I would go for Salador.
Yeah, look, I would have to agree with you as well. However, a lot of times these man of the match awards tend to go in the batsman's favour, and having lost those 2 early wickets, Surendran stayed in, got that 50, got them home in a hurry, which will help them with the run rate. That would certainly have him in contention as well. Folks, stay tuned in as we will bring in the presentations for today's match to you very shortly. And don't forget to tune in tomorrow and on Sunday. Sunday is a morning game. It's going to be at 9:30 a.m. Singapore versus Nepal. Promises to be a cracker of a game. Stay tuned in for the man of the match presentations.